You've probably helped your kids with the big things: college, a car, maybe a wedding someday. But there's one gift that could be worth more than all of them combined, and it costs a fraction of what you'd guess. Most parents never hear about it until their kids are too old for it to matter most. We've spent decades sitting across the table from families figuring out how to pass something on that actually lasts. Let us show you with this one, because the window on it is open right now, and it quietly closes a little more each and every year you wait.
This video is for educational purposes only. Always consult professionals before making legal, tax, and investment decisions. So here's the idea, and it's simpler than it sounds. The greatest advantage your children have isn't money, it's time. A dollar your kid invests at 22 can grow into something a dollar invested at 52 never catches. Not because they're smarter or richer, but because it had 30 more years to compound. You can't make more time for them, but you can help them use the time they have wisely. And the tool for that is a Roth IRA.
Let's be clear about what makes this different. A Roth is funded with after-tax dollars. They pay the tax now while they're young and barely in a bracket at all, and then it grows tax-free forever. No required withdrawals, no surprise bill in retirement, none of the future tax uncertainty that hangs over a regular 401k, where the government is still your partner and still gets to decide the rate later. For a 22-year-old, locking in tax certainty for the next 60 years is about the most powerful financial position that there is.
Now here's the part that surprises almost everyone. Your kid does not have to fund it out of their own paycheck.
This is the move most parents miss. As long as your child has earned income, a real job, a summer job, an internship, anything with a W-2 behind it, the money that goes into the Roth doesn't have to be theirs. You can gift it. Say they earn $5,000 over the summer entering a law firm or office downtown. That $5,000 can come from you, and it goes straight into their Roth. They keep their paycheck, you fund the future. The only rule that matters is it has to be earned income. You can't just gift them money and call it income. They actually have to have earned it at least as much as it goes in.
And the job can start younger than you'd think. We had a client. Guy owns a sizable business and does a lot of advertising. He has a young grandchild. We told him, put the grandchild in the ads. Pay them a real wage for real work. Suddenly that child is an actor with earned income, and you can open a Roth IRA for a kid barely out of diapers. Now imagine 60 years of tax-free growth starting that early. That's not a typo. That's the tax code working exactly as written for a family that knew to look.
Quick note, because this is the whole reason we make these videos. Most financial content tells you what you already know. We'd rather show you the moves that usually only get talked about behind closed doors with families who pay for the full picture. There's more to this one than we can fit in our talk today. Things like how a young person who switches jobs can move an old account into a Roth for almost nothing. Because when you barely earn, the tax to do it is barely anything. And that's for its own separate video. If you want us to go there, subscribe. You'll see it when it drops.
So why is being young such an advantage here? It comes down to tax brackets. Early in one's career, income is low, entry level, just starting out, which means giving up the tax deduction on a traditional account barely costs anything because they didn't have much of a tax break to give up in the first place. The best time to pay tax is when your rate is lowest. For a young person, that's right now.
Same thing early in a marriage. A young couple often has lower combined income, but files jointly, which gives them even more room to move money into Roth accounts while it's cheap. And here's one most people never catch. A young person who works a couple of years, then changes jobs, might have $12,000 or $14,000 sitting in an old traditional IRA or traditional 401k. That's a perfect moment to convert it to a Roth, because adding $14,000 to the return of someone who isn't earning much barely moves their tax bill. They lock in tax-free growth for 60 years for almost nothing. Young people change jobs more than any generation before them, and almost none of them know that window is sitting right there in front of them.
Now, you might be thinking something right about now. This is fine for wealthy families. My kid says they don't even have enough to save anything.
Well, that's exactly the point, and it's why this works better the less they make, not worse. The whole advantage is the low bracket. You're not trying to shelter a high earner. You're planning something while the ground is cheap. And the numbers are smaller than you think. A few $1,000s a year put into a Roth for a kid in their 20s can grow into much more than a check that you'd hand them when they're 50. Same family, same love, but one of them had 30 extra years to grow. This isn't an ultra wealthy strategy. It may be the single most accessible strategy there is.
So we'll be straight with you. This isn't really about the money. It's about what gets built alongside it.
Let me tell you something personal. When I was young, I was a lawyer not making a lot of money. And my dad called me and said, I need $2,000. And I said, why? He said, to put in your IRA. That's how old I am. That's what the limit was back then. And I did that. I did that for a few years. He would call me every January 2nd and tell me to do it. And it hurt, quite frankly. I felt it every year I had to do it. And I used to tell clients for years afterward, if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. But forcing me to save when it was hard taught me delayed gratification, not spending a dollar today so it's there for me later. That's the definition of investing. It's the cornerstone of every bit of wealth I've built since. Here I am, 59 and a half. It still feels like he had that conversation with me yesterday. It's fascinating that all those years have gone by.
That's the real gift. So the question isn't just, should I give my kids money? It's, are you handing them a dollar or are you handing them a habit? One gets spent, the other compounds for the rest of their life and gets passed to their kids after that. That's what stewardship actually looks like. Not the size of what you leave, the discipline you teach before you leave it.
So here's where this leaves you. You can't create more time for your children, but you can help them seize the time they already have. And the moment to start is the day they earn their first real dollar, not the day they finally figure it out on their own. But there's a difference between knowing this exists and knowing how to actually do it right. The earned income rules, the account setup, the conversation that makes a young person actually want this instead of resenting it. Get that part right, and it changes their entire financial life. Get it wrong, and the best intention in the world sits in a drawer. Here's the video you should watch next. It walks you through how to give to your family while you're alive to see it work in a way that actually reaches them instead of the IRS. Because investing is the easy part.